Hello, my name is Melissa Barnes, and I've spent the bulk of my career thus far in various forms of risk management roles in the healthcare industry. So legal, ethics and compliance, bioethics, enterprise risk management. And along the way, I've become keenly aware of the importance to any organization of building and sustaining trust with stakeholders. Without the trust of employees, customers, and regulators, even the most skilled organizations can't truly succeed. It's often said that trust can take years to build and seconds to lose. And while that statement may feel a little trite, with the reach and power of technology such as artificial intelligence and machine learning, it's never been more literally true. What once took hours, months, years, or was even humanly impossible can now, with the help of AI, be accomplished in a matter of seconds. Data can be gathered from all over our digital world and analyzed to explain the once unknown and to even predict future preferences, decisions, or outcomes. And companies today are under pressure to harness the power of AI to become better, faster, smarter, to improve their businesses and the lives of their constituents. But in so doing, there are many potential ethical pitfalls to be avoided. Is the technology being applied fairly? Are algorithms or models biased? While we can know certain details about employees, customers, and other stakeholders, should we? Should we act on that knowledge? What are the societal expectations above and beyond the minimum legal requirements? There's no shortage of corporate scandals involving the misuse of AI, highlighting the need for organizations to mitigate the risk of tech-related ethical breaches, because they can lead to liability, reputational harm, and loss of trust. One particularly effective risk mitigation approach when dealing with ethical issues is the use of an ethics board. An ethics board is a collection of experts who review proposals with an eye to identify ethical risks, to advise on risk mitigation recommendations, and in some cases to even approve or reject the proposal. Now, these types of boards or review councils are common in some industries. For instance, in the healthcare space, institutional review boards or IRBs in academic and other medical research institutions review all medical research protocols to guard against ethical risks in research involving humans and other animals. These IRBs help ensure, among other things, appropriate informed consent from research participants, and they uphold core bioethics principles and basically serve as a legally mandated gatekeeper for medical research. Given the ever-changing technology landscape, the pace of that change, and the sensitive ethical risks associated with AI, all organizations would be well advised to consider a similar committee-based approach for review of technology proposals. Now, that said, today's and tomorrow's tech ethics issues are likely not most effectively addressed using yesterday's ethics boards. Just as technology has evolved over time, ethics boards must also evolve to most effectively address the needs of business in this space. So I'll use 3 P's: people, program, and perspective, to outline the evolving needs of ethics boards. So let's start with people, because everything should always start with good people. In order to effectively address potential tech ethics issues, an ethics board must have the right members with the right expertise. Now, traditional ethics board members include professional ethicists, lawyers, and privacy officers, all with expertise that is still very relevant and necessary for today's and tomorrow's issues. But these boards now also need some members with deep expertise in technology, such as AI, members that can keep abreast of how that technology is evolving. Now, as a practical matter, if an ethics board is to serve as an effective risk mitigation, it has to understand the evolving state of technology, and perhaps even more importantly, how it intersects with the company's business and stakeholders. And they have to be able to do it quickly. Again, with the seemingly exponential pace of advancement in technology, an undue delay can not only render a proposal moot, but gone unchecked can become a barrier to seeking the board's advice in any event. So it's important for ethics boards to remember that companies and other organizations are implementing AI. They're working with a goal of improving the experiences of their stakeholders, which, if done appropriately, is an ethical end, and that's something that an ethics board should help enable. So to be clear, ethics boards should strive to support high performance with high integrity. So let's talk about diversity. While we know that diverse teams generally make better informed decisions in any instance, the mix and diversity of tech ethics board membership has never been more important. The World Economic Forum recently sponsored a survey of over 19,000 people in 28 countries around the world. And in short, the results underscore the fact that perceptions of the use of AI vary greatly across geographies and many other demographics. And so with the far-reaching implications of AI, the varied views and perceptions of all key stakeholders, including employees and customers, should be meaningfully represented on the board if the full range of potential ethical issues is to be effectively considered. So given the need for ethics boards to be timely and nimble, it may not always be logistically feasible for various stakeholder representatives or citizen participants to be actual members of the board. If not, it's crucial to routinely seek their input by another means, maybe surveys, focus groups, standing advisory panels, so that in reviewing proposals, boards can consider potential ethical issues from the lens of the organization's stakeholders. Now, finally, I've mentioned a couple of times the pressure that organizations are under to harness the power of technology, to improve stakeholder experience, and in some instances, even stay competitive and relevant. Behavioral ethics research has demonstrated that when under pressure, people with the best of intentions can rationalize really bad decisions. To help address this phenomenon, organizations generally construct ethics boards to be internally independent entities that lend fresh eyes to proposals. However, it's important to remember that members of ethics boards are humans, and humans, all of us, by our very nature, are susceptible to pressure and rationalization. If ethics board members are all employees of the organization pressured to perform, there is a risk of compromised reviews. So where feasible, ethics boards should consider adding a truly independent external member or members who can help guard against this internal inertia, pressure, and blind spots. So we can have a perfectly constructed board with all the necessary expertise, and it will be ineffective if not part of a more holistic program. Program's my second P. If employees don't even know about a review board as a resource or understand the principles and values it's intended to uphold, if processes and procedures are unclear or non-existent, then an ethics board simply won't effectively identify and address an organization's potential ethical issues. And this is particularly true with technology issues as they're becoming increasingly more complex and prevalent across pretty much every aspect of an organization's work. Employees need to be educated enough on potential tech ethics issues to recognize them and then to know how to ask for help. So there are several elements that must be addressed in establishing an effective program. I'll rely loosely here on the Department of Justice's list of 7 requirements for an effective compliance program that are listed in the U.S. Sentencing Guidelines. First of all, an ethics board must have an owner and a clear charter. The organization and the board members must clearly delineate and understand the responsibilities of the board, as well as the foundational values and the principles that the board was created to uphold in the first place. Secondly, the ethics board needs written policies and procedures, and those policies and procedures need to be actually integrated into the organization's work processes. Again, employees need a simple, clear framework to know which issues require board review, how to secure that review, the standards that'll be applied, and when to seek help. And in that instance, the earlier the better, to avoid rework and the rationalization that goes along with sunk costs. All of this requires effective training and education, which is the third element of an effective program. To be truly effective, the training should establish a basic understanding of AI and similar technologies, as well as the common ethical pitfalls associated with its use. Open lines of communication, the fourth element, are also critical to an effective program. All stakeholders should feel empowered to speak up and raise an issue for review by the ethics board. This is particularly true in the complex tech space because the person who actually recognizes the potential issue may well not be the project owner. To aid in the organization's overall understanding of AI and associated ethical issues, the ethics board also has a role to play. Where possible, the board should publicize its conclusions as well as its supporting standards and methodologies. This transparency by an ethics board often breeds transparency with the ethics board, which is why enforcing standards through well-publicized guidelines is the fifth element of an effective program. Ongoing monitoring, the sixth element, is also an important tool for tech ethics boards. A proposal to implement an AI project with certain risk mitigating controls may appear perfectly appropriate on paper, but until it's implemented in the real world, the true risks, such as unintended bias, can't be fully understood. So building in a plan for the ethics board to monitor the implementation of the project and re-review to ensure that the project is proceeding as planned is certainly a best practice. And finally, number 7, in an effective program, it's important to respond quickly to identified problems and to take corrective action. For this to happen, an ethics board needs to have the authority of a governance body. And now that doesn't necessarily mean that the board has approval denial authority, such as the IRBs that I mentioned earlier. Rather, many organizations establish ethics boards as advisory bodies and their conclusions as recommendations. However, if an ethics board recommends against the implementation of a particularly risky proposal or recommends a risk mitigation control that the project owner chooses not to adopt, the board at minimum should have the power to require escalation of the issue to a level in the organization with the requisite authority to make an appropriate risk-benefit decision and take into account the reputation of the overall organization. Now, I'd also be remiss without saying that a program, even with all of these elements, must exist in a healthy culture to be effective. A culture of integrity must permeate the organization from the top leadership through middle management and reach the foundation. Without a healthy culture, no program, no matter how well constructed, will be effective. So to play on a Peter Drucker quote, culture eats 7 elements for breakfast. So that's the basic outline of an effective tech ethics program, but the best programs benefit from continuous benchmarking with other programs and gaining the perspective of others on a similar journey to prevent ethical breaches. So perspective is my third P. One of the many things I love about the ethics and compliance space is the willingness of others to share learning and best practices. Beyond just being good citizens, perhaps this is because organizations understand that when one entity stumbles over an ethics issue, the ramifications often reach well beyond that one organization to the industry at large. And in some instances, the ramifications are pan-industry. And this is certainly true with the ethical issues associated with AI. Those infamous corporate scandals of the past have certainly affected all who seek to use AI in their work today. The complexity and the pace of advancement in the technology space calls for even more of this kind of collaboration. The formation of industry associations, even pan-industry initiatives, allows for the exchange of learning and the creation of standards and codes of conduct for implementing AI and future evolving technology. This is a raise all boats approach so that society doesn't have to endure everyone making the same mistakes in this sensitive space. Now, fortunately, some collaborations such as this already exist. For example, there are initiatives such as the Partnership on AI, which is a nonprofit organization originally founded by large tech companies such as Amazon, Apple, Facebook, Google, etc. And that brings together various stakeholders, including academia, civil society, various industries, and media organizations, to develop best practices for AI systems, and with the goal of advancing AI for the good of society. Tapping into these types of organizations is absolutely critical. An ethics board is only as good as it is relevant. The constant evolution of AI requires that board members seek outside perspective for continuous improvement. As is usual, more brains are better. So in conclusion, with a focus on the right people, an effective program, an outside perspective, an ethics board can be an excellent risk mitigation approach to address the ethical issues associated with AI and other technologies. Done well, ethics boards can help organizations both avoid ethical pitfalls and help enable the use of this exciting new technology to better serve all stakeholders. Thank you.